Shalom, family. Good to see you here. Hope you're doing well. Well, we're going to talk about Nicki Minaj. Judgment is swift, isn't it? It's swift these days. And, a lot of people have not forgiven her for making that appearance on Turning Point USA. And after that appearance, she lost 10 million subscribers on her Instagram. And she went out there, and I think she um, took it down. But a lot of people have been buzzing about that interview. They feel she was, sold out, and people no longer trusted her. A lot of her fan base, you always going to have diehards, no matter what she does, they're going to stick by her. But a big portion of them did videos saying they are done with Nicki Minaj for joining the right MAGA. They said that is inexcusable. They do not forgive her for that. So a lot of people also been speculating, what is her goal? Because she's not a citizen. She's from Trinidad. Now, she's been here for a long time. I believe in that interview, she's been in the United States since she was 5 years old. So she's been here for a long time, but she's still not a US citizen. And some people feel she's doing this for citizenship. Others think it may have something to do with her husband. He's got some federal charges on him. So it's a lot of speculation going on. But at the end of the day, girl, please, you can carry your butt home for real. Nobody needs anybody like her around. She doesn't support the community. Maybe at one point in time she was leaning that way. She ain't leaning that way anymore. She is all in team white supremacy now. She is. And they're really the only ones defending her. If you go look at the video, you'll see all these MAGAs on videos defending her. But a lot of her own fan base, they're not feeling it. They're not feeling it at all. So let me just let me share my screen. Okay, just a brief announcement. Um, there were some people asking me about the flaxseed and aloe gel. That will be back on Friday. In fact, what I will do is, I know it's the Gentile New Year's coming up. So on the 31st until the 2nd, I'm going to mark things down, for because there's a few people that want to grab a few things, and that's fine. So we will do a brief sale from the 31st until the 2nd. And I'll put something in the community tab on this as well. But in the meantime, you can always go out there and use Thank You 15 to get 15% off of your order. And the Thank You 15 never expires. Okay. So you can use this all year round if you want. All right, y'all. Now let's get to the reason why we are here. We are. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you. Okay.
There's only three reasons why a public figure, a celebrity, a politician, even on a microcosmic level, your freaking friend or neighbor, there's only 3 reasons why they would throw away their entire reputation. Number 1, money. We know that Nicki Minaj has been dealing with financial issues lately, and we know that there's no bigger, better grift out there than MAGA. We looking at 2 grifters on the stage. And folks throw away their entire reputation seemingly out of nowhere. We know they're either broke as fuck, about to be on the streets, or indebted to some scary ass people. The second reason why someone would throw their entire reputation away, I discussed in this video, which I'm going to tag in the caption, and that is legal trouble. A lot of these celebrities, a lot of these politicians and public figures, they're trying to get ahead of legal trouble coming down the pipe. And who better to help them out than the felon in chief? And of course, the last reason I'm sure you can figure out is violence. A lot of these people are being threatened with violence, them or their loved ones. Whenever you see these celebrities, these politicians, these rappers out here, whenever you see these public figures out here suddenly throwing their whole entire career away, especially behind Donald Trump, you can count on one of those 3 reasons being the reason why.
Yesterday, U.S. Weekly broke the news that Nicki Minaj's house is at risk of being seized due to a lawsuit. And now, I'm not a lawyer, but I read through the case filings to try and figure out how we got here. So let me give you the recap on what's going on. So this actually has to do with something that happened back in March of 2019. A German man by the name of Thomas Weidenmuller was assigned as head of security for a tour stop that Nicki was doing in Germany. It was the Nicki World Tour, and during this particular concert, a fan was somehow able to bypass a female security guard and get on the stage with Nicki. The fan didn't harm anyone or anything, but they did make it on stage, got a little dancing, and then Nicki's personal security team apprehended the person in under 10 seconds and then escorted them off the stage. Now, according to Thomas, who again is the head of security, after the concert wraps up, Nicki and a number of people from her team confront the female security guard as well as a second security guard about this fan getting on the stage. Thomas says Nicki was yelling and screaming and falsely accusing them of putting her in danger, but he told the guards to just be quiet and listen to her complaints. Now, according to Thomas, at one point, the female security guard began crying and apologizing, but in response to that, Nicki began recording this confrontation and then
Come on, articles. According to Rolling Stone, Nicki Minaj is at risk of losing her $20 million California mansion. They claim a judge has agreed to move forward after Nicki Minaj failed to respond to a $500,000 lawsuit presented to her by a former security guard. She was assaulted by her husband, Kenneth Petty. Nicki failing to respond to this lawsuit clearly means that she has no intentions on trying to pay this man. So in response to this, he actually sanctioned a motion with the courts asking them to sell her $20 million mansion to pay off the debt to him that he was awarded in the default judgment. In the Rolling Stone, the judge is waiting for documents from Bank of America to see how much Nicki Minaj has paid on her $13 million mortgage payment since she bought the house in October 2022. And if the sale is not enough to cover the mortgage for the home and the default judgment, that they might have to weigh other options to see what the next steps will be. I'm curious to know what you guys think regarding the timing of these articles dropping is definitely interesting, but I'm curious to know you guys' thoughts. Let me know down in the comments. Like I previously stated, if Nicki Minaj ignored this lawsuit from its inception, it ain't no way in HELL you telling me that she is going to just roll over and pay up now. I think that this guy's going to have a hard time trying to get his coins. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Peace.
It was deemed that she and her husband need to pay a guy, I believe, I don't know if it was a security guard. Yeah, it was a security guard. He was awarded, here we go, $503,000 in a lawsuit. Now, apparently, she didn't even really respond to that lawsuit, so it's kind of almost like a default judgment. Now, here's the thing about civil lawsuits. After you've gotten a judgment, the problem is collecting it, right? Like, how are you going to collect it? Will the person willingly pay? The only thing you have to help you to get payment is the court system that could put in court orders to either garnish your paychecks or possibly liquidate some of your assets or potentially even sell a home to get the money to pay the judgment. So essentially, the judge is saying that she's close to forcing the sale of Nicki Minaj's $20 million house to sell the debt. Now, let me read this. A California judge is saying that she's close to forcing the sale of Nicki Minaj's $20 million mansion after the rapper has refused to pay damages that were awarded to a former security guard who claims he was assaulted by her husband. By the way, let me give you a little bit of context in terms of, again, these legal suits, people getting these outlandish payments, and what happens. Do you remember when the game got sued for sexual assault or sexual battery or whatever it was, when he supposedly touched one of the not inmates, but cast members on a reality show when he had a show, and she sued him. He never showed up. They gave a $7 million judgment. Essentially, the chick wanted the $7 million. And after they deemed that they would not give him a appeal in terms of, have him run the case back again because he didn't respond the first time, he has to pay the $7 million. Now, I don't know if what really fully happened, but there's no assets in the game's name. He took everything out of his name. He put it in other people's name, including home, cars, everything. And essentially, the woman who was looking to try to have the judge find the money, they couldn't find no money. And she then came to court saying, oh, no, he put the stuff in other people's names, but it's a little bit harder to get. Here's the thing. Nicki Minaj she got to be up a couple $100 million, right? She's not going to put everything from her name to her mama's name or something like that. So she's, doing her thing. So $503,000, this person is going back and forth to court to saying, yo, I want the money. I think she's getting paid over there. The judge will be like, if you have some proof, I could put in an order to force it. And that's how this is coming down. So in a hearing on November 24th in Los Angeles Superior Court, Cindy Panucco told lawyers for both parties that she's leaning towards a forced sale of the opulent home, but said that there's one final detail she wants to review before taking that action. My tentative is to grant this. I just want to make sure we're getting it right. The one detail required, according to Rolling Stone, is a bank statement that details Nicki Minaj payments on her $13.3 million mortgage since October 2022, as well as daily interest that's accrued on the debt. Panucco explained that she wants to review this document to ensure that a forced sale of the property will actually be able to recover the $503,000 that is owed to Nicki Minaj, former security guard, even if the property sells for well below market value. So they're saying we could force the house to be sold, but again, if the house gets sold for $10 million and the mortgage she owes $13 million, everything goes to the bank and they still need more. So selling the house won't do it. I'm pretty sure they've gone through the process of asking this defendant, or not defendant, but plaintiff, who, the security guard, to say, you sure you don't know any other assets she owns? Maybe a car, maybe, I don't know, whatever she could own. Like, obviously they're not going to be able to get her jewelry. Her jewelry's right there with her unless they raid her house. So it's like, is there any asset that's just sitting out there? Like, you know what I mean? And they've determined it's the house, and the judge is saying, well, all right, let me just make sure the house is going to be worth the money that you're trying to recover, even after all the closing stuff happens with the mortgage, etc. He says, let's say there's no bidder who offers the full $20 million. It goes up for auction. They don't get a fair market value. It doesn't cover everything. It doesn't cover the sale. What the sale is required to cover, including the judgment in this instance, then I would use the evidence to help me determine that. It says the person's lawyer attempted to argue back, insisting that the sale would likely reap millions more than needed to cover the payments, and insisting they could deal with any shortfall later. So they just want the judge to sell. That's the defendant, right? Or not defendant, the plaintiff, who is a security guard who won the judgment. So, however, the judge refused to back down and noted that she will not make a decision until the bank statement is revealed. As I understand it, that's the only piece missing. Everything else looked good. The judge then set up a follow-up date for January 22nd so she could look over pen and paperwork and made a decision, which means they have to get that paperwork from the bank, which means she's going to probably put in a order forcing the bank to give over Nicki Minaj's mortgage situation. and then make that determination to see if the house is sold. Will they get enough money? I said, latest move in blah blah. First revealed that Weidenmuller had asked the court. This got to be a white person, right? Like whose last name is Weidenmuller? Had asked the court to force the sale of the Hidden Hills, California house that he could claim the money that's owed to him. Okay, all right. He claims the money hasn't been paid. This and third. Now I got to be honest with you. I do believe that before they sell Nicki Minaj's house, Nicki Minaj will pay. But still, Nicki Minaj right now is non-cooperative. So in this file, the security guard noted that the home's $20 million value would cover the mortgage as well as the money owed. Weidenmuller's legal team stated the Star had a $13.3 million mortgage lien on the property and a $722,000 homestead exemption, together just under $14 million. He says that the property current fair value, fair market value is $20 million. So they're saying pretty much there's $14 million in outstanding stuff and $20 million that they would make from the property, yielding approximately $6 million beyond the equity and lien and exemptions. The amount is more than sufficient to satisfy the judgment, plus accrued interest and enforcement costs. Lawyers for the security guard called attention to Minaj's extraordinary net worth, insisting that she is more than capable of paying the damages owed. Although it's regrettable, blah, blah. All right, cool. So essentially, don't look like Nicki Minaj is addresses, but there is a judgment there that she has to somehow figure out. By the way, I'm pretty sure if she offered this motherfucker, like, hey, listen, I'm going to keep fighting this or delaying this as long as I can, I'll give you $300,000 instead of $500,000. Maybe they'll take it. Maybe not 300, but maybe 400. So she could get a discount, a little haircut off of that. But right now, she's not trying to pay. Okay. Okay. The legal snaffles, the latest legal snaffles stems from an incident in March 22, 2019, when Weidenmuller claims he was physically assaulted by Petty, which is Nicki Minaj's husband, and verbally berated by Nicki Minaj after a fan broke through the barrier and charged onto the stage during the rapper's performance. The rapper allegedly became upset with the security team and told her husband about the incident. Weidenmuller said he entered the dressing room to console her and was reportedly greeted by the Starship's rapper and her husband and two other security guards. He claimed that he began consoling Nicki Minaj, only for her to start yelling at him. He further alleged that she threw a shoe at him before the husband sucker punched him in the jaw without warning. The security guard was then taken to the doctor, where he was required to have jaw surgery. Ooh, that's probably why they're sticking to that judgment. Minaj's enormous abode in Hidden Hills currently serves as a primary residence. The expansive dwelling comes with 8 bedrooms, several bathrooms, a resort-side pool, a cabana, terrace with sweeping views of the hills, and a separate guest house. The home spans 12,000 square feet and sits in a wealthy neighborhood where several stars reside. Minaj previously rented a $28,000 monthly dwelling in Calabasas in 2020, and she previously rented a pad in Beverly Hills for $35,000 a month. I remember when she lived there. Minaj also owned a $10 million, 7,000 square foot abode with 6 bedrooms. It was her main residence before she picked up her Hidden Hills dwelling. Wow. Okay. Nicki Minaj. Let's see. Is this the house? This is not it.
Selling tax and unwind.
No, I don't think this is it. Is this it?
That's a movie that you watched.
Maybe it is.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Here is Nicki Minaj's $19.5 million Hidden Hills mansion, plus a few other properties she's lived in. And here is her Hidden Hills mansion that she purchased last year for $19.5 million.
Looking for my lip gloss and my liner. Looking for me, told him meet me at the diner. Got him smiling cause he know I outshine her.
That's $20 million.
Had the paper just to remind her. See the hoe, don't know my MO.
Here's the Beverly Hills mansion she rented during COVID.
He can't fit in my role. He been said I knew. He been said you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think her house will be sold before she sells it. I definitely do believe that she will 100% either pay the debt or figure out some other way. So yeah, figure it out. Let's see.
Yesterday, U.S. offender, his address has to be listed on the registered offenders list. So being clear about where they live and what their address is theoretically not a problem. In the documents, Thomas's attorney notes that Kenneth Petty actually got in trouble and was sentenced to house arrest for moving to California in 2019 and not registering his California address with the registry. The point here being, as of 2022, Nicki and Kenneth's address has been on this list, and this lawsuit was also filed in 2022. So Thomas.
All right, all good, all good. Um, Somebody just sent me another.
Nicki Minaj ignored a lawsuit, now a California judge threatening to sell her $20 million Hidden Hills mansion to pay off the $500,000 judgment awarded to Thomas Wiedenmuller, a security guard who was working her concert back in 2019 in Frankfurt, Germany, when a fan rushed the stage. Nicki, according to the complaint, felt that a female security guard closest to the fan did not do enough to stop that fan and blames that female security guard. That's when Wiedenmuller stepped in to defend his colleague. According to the lawsuit, Nicki allegedly threw a shoe at Wiedenmuller. Later, her husband, Kenneth Perry, punched him in the face. Wiedenmuller says that he had broken jaw, in multiple surgeries, pain, suffering, distress. He files a lawsuit in California against Nicki and never responded to the lawsuit. Nicki apparently may have made public claims that her manager dropped the ball and she never heard about it. Either way, the plaintiff moved for default judgment, basically saying, hey, I filed this, I served this, her deadline to show up and defend herself has passed, so I win. The court agreed, entered a default judgment, $503,000 in March 2024. Now, his legal team, the plaintiff in that case, is saying that they've tried to collect the money. Nicki's refusing to pay, so they went to the court and said, hey, she has a house here in California in your jurisdiction. Let's sell it. At a hearing this month, the judge said, hey, look, I think we're going to sell this house, but one thing I want to be sure of is that there's enough money from that sale to pay everybody who's owed. So there's a bank that has a mortgage on the house. She wants a document from the bank saying exactly what's currently owed. Yeah, there was the $13 million mortgage taken out when she first bought the house, but anything could have happened. It could be a lot less. It could be a lot more at this point. We need to know for sure, because when we sell the house, the bank gets paid first. There's going to be interest and closing costs and transaction fees, and only the leftover proceeds can be used to satisfy the judgment. So I got to be sure that there's going to be at least $500,000 left over. I think she's sending a message. She's signaling to Nicki Minaj that, hey, if you were going to do something about this, you need to do it now. Nicki's got a couple options. She could try to reopen the case and say, I have an excuse, I wasn't served, I didn't know about this, whatever. Or she could just try to settle with the person and say, look, I'm going to move to reopen the case. I'm going to do this. I'm going to appeal. I'm going to do that. You're never going to get your money. Why don't you, instead of taking 500,000, take a couple 100,000 less? Let's call it 250, call it a deal. We'll see what happens here. Bottom line, it would be an absolute tragedy if Nicki Minaj did nothing and let millions of equity go in her house to pay a $500,000 debt.
Now, speaking of being a mess and broke, Nicki, don't let them put your shit on the curb before Christmas. And instead of giving UN speeches, you should have been giving a speech to the judge before she put your shit on the curb. Now, here's the latest update on a summary default judgment that a former security guard had won against Nicki Minaj and her not responding to the court case. And shout out to Bobby Penn over at The Grill. He stated that the judge moved to put Nicki Minaj's $20 million house on the chopping block over an unpaid judgment. Now, yesterday, the judge had stated that she had already ordered for the forced sale of Nicki Minaj's $20 million Hidden Hill mansion so a former security guard can collect that $500,000 he is rightfully owed. Now, you guys can pause to read it, but it gives you kind of the backstory as to how the security guard ended up winning $500,000 from Nicki Minaj. Now, the judge stated, and I quote, my tentative is to grant this, which is to grant the sale of the home. The judge goes on to say that making it clear that the only thing upholding this ruling is a final mortgage statement from Bank of America. Now, currently, Nicki Minaj has about a $13 million mortgage on her home. And the judge simply just wants to know how much of that mortgage has been paid off. And the reason as to why the judge wants to know that is so that when they force the sale of the home, they can actually add in the summary default judgment for the person who's suing Nicki Minaj. And just above above, you can actually just pause to read the explanation, but essentially it says the same thing. They want to know how much of her mortgage is left to pay. Now, the next hearing coming up is January 22nd of 2022, and that's when the judge will be able to get that bank statement from the bank and the lenders, and then she will be able to determine what to do next in regards to how they're going to facilitate the sale of Nicki Minaj's home. Now, I know a lot of people are asking the question as to how could a judge force the sale of a home and why Nicki Minaj didn't originally pay that $500,000. Those are questions you're going to have to reserve for Nicki Minaj, that judge, and a mortgage broker because I don't have any answers for you. And I'll see you in January when they put her on a curb.
Or you got to sell your house. Minaj was at the UN talking and petitioning for people in Nigeria's Christian faith. She should have been at home petitioning how to resolve the $600,000 outstanding debt. And now her $20 million house is yet up on the chopping block again. So we previously heard that Nicki Minaj's husband assaulted a man and he was awarded $600,000. He has now petitioned to the court a couple months ago, petitioned to the court for her to sell her home in order for them to pay up what is owed. Now, we thought it was a joke back then, but now a Los Angeles judge on Monday said she is on the brink of putting the order for the sale of Nicki Minaj's $20 million Hills Mansion so that the security guard can collect the $500,000 judgment he won by suing the Barb's World rapper and her alleged husband for an assault that happened back in Germany. The judge said that she is waiting for Bank of America to show exactly how much of Nicki Minaj's $13.3 million mortgage she's already paid since the purchase of the home in 2022. Based on that, the judge will make a decision on whether or not she has to sell the house or if she has other assets to cover the debt. What do you think? Comment below and let me know. Do you think Nicki needs to sell her house or she got to find money? Is that husband causing her more problems than she ever realized? Comment below and let me know.
Judge moves to seize Nicki Minaj's $20 million mansion. Security guard wins big. Courts rarely move to seize celebrity mansion.
Well, it sure don't look good, and it's a judgment she should not have ignored. So if this judgment was there since 2022 and she ignored it all this time, I don't know what she was thinking. What did she think? It was just gonna vanish and disappear? No, they never vanish unless you take care of it. And obviously she did not take care of it. And look at the timing of this, y'all. Right after she made her appearance on Turning Point USA. I'm just noticing, but hey, it don't look like she got a lot of time on this, and whoever the security guard is, they're ready to collect on their money. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, I'm just looking at the timing. She did that interview on Turning Point USA, I believe on December 5th. And this is what, the 30th, and look at what's coming up, y'all. Oh. So y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you for being here. And look, it don't pay to join Team White Supremacy. If you're a melanated person, the outcome is never good. Never, ever, ever is it good. So she will learn, unfortunately, the hard way, but she will definitely learn. Now, from what I understand, she got a new album that's coming out in March of 2026. And there's a lot of people already online saying they're not buying her new album, you know? So not unless she's able to turn this whole thing around, she might have a Tyler moment. I'm just saying. So, y'all, I will see you tomorrow on all new topics. And don't forget to pick up your hair products. Make sure you use the discount codes. I'm going to try to make it as easy on you as possible so you can get discounts all the time. So I will see you tomorrow, family. Enjoy the rest of your night. Shalom, family.